This happened in January a year and a half ago, on my way into work one cold, wintry Friday morning. I had a rough start that day. I remember waking up in a panic as I realized that I was holding my phone in my hand and had been hitting snooze on my alarms for the last hour. I wasn't even giving them a chance to sound. Apparently, as soon as my phone started to vibrate, which it does a second or so before the music begins to play, I would hit the side button to silence it. I was exhausted. I had already worked Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days that typically turn into 12s at that time of the year, and I had just found out that I was pregnant the week prior. I was even more tired than normal, and this type of behavior was very unlike me. I'm always on time to work. I don't usually work on Fridays, but once a year we have our annual mandatory training for all staff members. It's definitely not a day that can be missed or one to be extremely late to. So I quickly threw on some clothes, tied up my hair into a ponytail and brushed my teeth, and then out the door I went. I had 25 minutes until I had to be there, so I didn't even let my car warm up. As I pulled out of my driveway, I remember thinking to myself that my dad would kill me if he knew. He's a mechanic, and that was something he always preached the importance of. I finally get out of the neighborhood, hit the highway, and notice that my gas light is on. Another annoyance that would cut into my time. But I decided that I would stop once I got off on the exit, as I had a few extra minutes to spare. So I did. I pull my car up to the pump and turn it off, hop out into the freezing cold to get the gas started, and quickly jump back in. There's a guy about my father's age pumping gas into his white work truck right in front of me, but I don't really pay him much mind. Those trucks were everywhere near my workplace at that time, as it's near the river where all the bridge construction had been going on. I'm texting my friend from work and letting her know where I am. When I get that feeling someone is looking at me, I look up and make eye contact with the work truck guy. He quickly looks away just as I hear the gas click off. I get back out to finish and don't think anything else about it, and then hop back in, ready to get to work. At this point, I probably had about 5 minutes left, which would have been plenty considering the proximity. I pressed the start button. Click, click, click. Shit, I thought as I did it again, only to hear that same sound. What do you know, my car won't start, the battery's dead, and for the second time that morning, I thought of my dad and his advice. If I would have just let it warm up, I wouldn't be having this problem right now. I try for a third time, hoping it's the charm, but it's no use. The guy in the work truck notices at this point. He starts to make his way towards me, so I step out of my car. He asks me if I'm having car trouble, and I tell him that I think my battery's dead. He tells me that he can help me, but that he doesn't have jumper cables in this particular truck. He does, however, only work right down the road. He's on one of the bridge crews, just as I assumed, and has a set there. He says he'll run to get them and come right back. I tell him that he doesn't have to do that, but he says he doesn't mind at all. I think about it for a second. My husband's at home, already asleep at this point. He works third shift, and I don't want to wake him up if there's no need. And my dad's already at his job. I remember thinking that he probably has a kid my age somewhere, one who he would hope someone would help in this type of situation one day. That he's probably just a father trying to help. And so I say okay and thanked him for the help. He said no problem, that he'd be back in a couple of minutes, and left to get the jumper cables. I usually would have a set in my car, but had loaned them to my brother the week before, and he hadn't returned them yet. As I'm waiting, I called my boss to let her know what was going on, and that I would be in as soon as possible. She offers to send someone out there to help, but I tell her about the work truck guy, and that I'll call her back if this doesn't work. By the time I hang up, he's back with the cables, and we get my car started back up again. We let it run for a few minutes and make small talk. That's of little importance, like typical strangers do when they're trying to fill the silence. It's during this time that he asks me if I'm a nurse. Immediately I'm alarmed because I'm not wearing any scrubs. I think he can see the shock on my face because he quickly said that he noticed my license plate when he was pulling back in. I laugh in relief and slight embarrassment as I remember that my license plate is in fact one of the state-issued nursing ones, and reply that yes, I am a nurse and that I'm actually running late for work. He asks if I work at the hospital up the road, to which I reply that no, I do not. Now he's the one that looks confused, because where else would a nurse work, right? I don't want to give too much away. I'm still a woman and I watch the news. I feel a little uncomfortable with the questions, but I don't want to be rude. So I say, oh, I work at a facility not too far from here, and leave it at that. I mention again how I'm running late, and he unhooks the jumper cables. I thank him again, and we both get in our vehicles and drive away. I let him pull out first, and then proceed to take a roundabout way to work, just in case he's watching. I felt kind of silly, but you never know, right? I finally get to work, and I jump straight into the training. I honestly don't think about what happened that morning again, except here and there when my coworkers asked a few questions in the break room during lunch. The long day finally comes to an end and we all head out. As I'm walking towards my car, I see a piece of paper shoved into the driver's side window. I stand there and look at it for a second, thinking of the guy that morning, and then glance around the parking lot. I don't see anything unusual and remind myself that he didn't know where I worked. I laugh for being so paranoid because it's probably a note from my best friend, who actually does work at a hospital a few blocks over. We leave each other notes occasionally if we see each other's car as we drive by. I started it back when she was going through a rough time the year before, and it just kind of became our thing. As I'm sure you can guess, the note wasn't from her. It was from the work truck guy from that morning. I don't remember it all word for word, but most of it I know I'll never forget. It made my skin crawl and thoroughly freaked me the hell out. It listed his phone number at the top with an arrow pointing to it that said, "Call soon, love." It said that he felt we had this connection, one of two souls, and that he wanted to continue getting to know me. That he knew the reason why he was at the gas pump in front of me that morning was so that he could find me, because the Lord knows he has been searching for me for so many years now, that he couldn't just let me slip away. We just couldn't ignore fate like that. No, not when it had been made as clear as it had that morning. I dropped the piece of paper like it was on fire. Felt my heart drop with all the panic and paranoia that came after reading it. I was so freaked out that I immediately called my mom, my dad, and my husband. I didn't want to drive home. What if he followed me? Did he not see my wedding ring? How did he even find out where I worked? He literally had to have driven through about 20 other medical facility parking lots just to find my car, because I watched him drive off in the other direction and never saw him turn around in my rear view. Trust me, I was watching. My work building is kind of hard to find too, with it being off the main road on a side street, especially for a man that lived a couple hours north from here, as he told me earlier during our small talk. He wouldn't have been familiar with the surrounding area enough to just come upon my car like that. I didn't walk in or out of my work by myself for months after that, not until well after the bridge was finished. It's always nighttime when I arrive to work, and for part of the year, when I leave, so there was no way in hell that I was going to walk across that dark parking lot by myself. I've never seen him again, but that hasn't stopped me from feeling like someone is watching me at random times. That type of paranoia just kind of sticks with you. If only I'd just listened to my dad's advice and let my damn car warm up. But that's a mistake I have not and will not ever make again. I can guarantee it. So to the creepy guy my father's age who thought it was appropriate to hunt down my car after helping me, let's never meet again. Hey Scaredy Cats, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll never miss out on any of the stories. If you have any stories that you'd like for me to read, you can find the links for submissions in the description below.